You know, when you think about the high-stakes world of financial audits, a big question comes to mind. How do we actually guarantee quality? I mean, how can we be absolutely sure that every number is double-checked, every single risk is looked at, and every conclusion is solid? Well, it turns out there's a playbook for that. It's called ISA 220, and we're going to break down this super important guide for what is, let's be honest, a mission-critical task. Okay, but before we dive right into that playbook, let's kick things off with what might be the biggest question of all. When it really comes down to it, who, and I mean who, is ultimately on the hook for the quality of a financial audit? Just let that sink in for a moment, because the answer to that question, it's the absolute core of what ISA 220 is all about. So to get to that answer, here's the game plan for our explainer. First, we're going to talk about the mission itself, this quest for audit quality. Then we'll zero in on the one person who's in charge. After that, we'll walk through how they lead the team, run the audit, and deal with that all-important final review. And to wrap it all up, we'll connect the dots and see why this stuff really matters to all of us, not just the accountants in the room. All right, let's jump right in with our first section, the quest for audit quality. I mean, it makes sense, right? Before we get into who does what, we have to be super clear on what the end goal even is. What are we actually trying to accomplish here? So let's define our terms. What do we even mean by audit quality? Well, it's way more than just making sure the numbers add up. It's about running the entire audit according to the highest professional standards, ticking every single ethical box, and ultimately delivering a report that people can actually genuinely trust. You could say it's the gold standard for sure. And this is exactly where ISA 220 comes into the picture. It's the whole framework that's built to help us hit that gold standard. But here's the thing you gotta understand. It is not just a boring checklist of things to do. No way. It's a whole system built around a core idea. And while all the rules and ethics are obviously super important, the real secret sauce of this framework, what makes it work, is its focus on two things: leadership and supervision. And that leadership point is the perfect lead-in to our second section, the partner's overall responsibility. I mean, if leadership is the key, well, we need to know who the leader is, right? So let's meet the captain of this audit. Okay, this right here, this is one of the biggest takeaways from ISA 220. Audit quality is not a group project. It's not managed by some committee where everyone can point fingers at someone else. No, it comes down to one person, just one. A single individual has the final, overall responsibility for the whole shebang. The buck stops right there. And that one person is called the engagement partner. The captain of the ship analogy is perfect here. Seriously, think about it. They're responsible for literally everything. The crew, the direction you're heading, and making sure you guide that ship all the way to its destination, delivering a high-quality, trustworthy audit report. So, okay, if they're the captain, how do they actually lead? Well, that question brings us to Section 3, leading the engagement. And just like a good captain plans out the entire journey before even leaving the harbor, the engagement partner has some really crucial duties before the main audit work even kicks off. Think of it as their pre-game strategy. You see, the partner's leadership really sets the vibe for the entire audit. It's on them to build a culture of quality from day one. What does that mean? It means they have to constantly encourage what we call professional skepticism. You know, that healthy mindset of always questioning things, not just taking them at face value. At the same time, they've got to make sure the whole team is acting ethically and that everyone is on the same page about what needs to get done. And that leadership gets tested right out of the gate with this pre-engagement checklist. I mean, before they even agree to take on a client, the partner has to do their homework. They've got to confirm the team is independent and can keep things confidential, but maybe even more important, they have to check out the client's integrity and be honest about whether their own firm has the right people and resources for this specific audit. It's a huge go or no-go decision right at the start. Okay, so the planning's done, they've accepted the client. Now the real work begins. It's time for Section 4, executing the audit. This is where we see the captain's in-game strategy, where the plan actually gets put into motion. So ISA 2020 lays out the partner's strategy here in 3 clear steps. First up is direction. That's all about laying out the game plan, explaining the risks, and telling people what to do. Then comes supervision, which is pretty much what it sounds like, keeping an eye on how things are going and jumping in to help solve problems. And finally, the big one, the partner's personal review of the most important, most critical parts of the audit. So what does the partner actually review? Well, they're not getting bogged down in every single detail. That's not the point. Instead, they're zooming in on the real high stakes stuff. We're talking about the big judgments the team made, those tricky accounting estimates, and of course, the areas with the highest risk. At the end of the day, the partner has to look at the evidence and be 100% convinced that it backs up the team's conclusions. And of course, none of this works if the team isn't set up to succeed in the first place. That's a huge part of the partner's job, too. They have to make sure the team has what it needs. That means enough time to do a thorough job, the right people with the right skills, and access to all the proper tools and tech to get it done. Now, you know what they say, even the best captain needs a fresh pair of eyes to look over the map. And that brings us perfectly to Section 5, the Independent Quality Review. For some of the more high-risk or complex audits, you gotta call in a final umpire, someone to make sure the game was played fair and square. And the key word here is independent. It's so important to understand the difference between these two roles. You've got the engagement partner, who's in the trenches, leading the team and making the key decisions. Then you have the engagement quality reviewer, or EQR, who is totally separate from the audit team. Their entire job is to take a step back and give an objective, unbiased look at the partner's biggest judgments, all before that final report goes out the door. One is leading, the other is reviewing. And if you want to know just how critical this step is, get this. The audit is not done until the EQR gives their okay. In fact, the team can't even put a date on the final audit report until that independent review is officially complete. Think about that. It is the last, absolute, non-negotiable checkpoint for quality. Okay, so we've been through the whole playbook, from start to finish. This brings us to our last and honestly most important section. Why does any of this matter? What's the point of all these rules and reviews? Well, it all comes down to achieving one simple, powerful goal: building trust and confidence. Look, when this ISA 220 playbook is followed correctly, the ripple effect is massive. It all starts with building trust in the financial numbers that companies put out there. That trust creates confidence in the wider financial markets. That confidence helps push for stronger corporate governance. And all of that, together, helps lower the overall risk for everyone involved: investors, employees, you name it. So really, the next time you hear the words financial audit, I want you to remember it's so much more than just accountants and spreadsheets. It's a carefully designed process led by one accountable captain, all focused on one simple but incredibly profound goal: building the trust and confidence that our entire economic system is built on.